Welcome to Quesadillas Crafts. My name is Casey and thank you for joining me today. If you're returning or new to my channel, just wanting to say, hey, we have a great craft inspired by Haunted Mansion. And if you're as excited as I am, let's get started. All right, so first what we're going to head and do is I grabbed these 4 drawers from Dollar Tree. So if you take them apart, you can actually get up to 8 boxes. We're going to use 7 out of the 8 boxes. And again, because it is Haunted Mansion inspired, I'm going to go ahead and paint mine like a darker purple. The paint that I used was Wild Grape by Apple Barrel. And so we're going to go ahead and get all of these painted. I'm just going to let the music play while I go through painting all 7 of these wonderful blocks.
It's as simple as it seems, the twinkle in your eyes, the way that time slows down when you kiss me, as we fall asleep in a bed of butterflies. Just close your eyes and then you'll see it. You don't ever have to look too far. You don't have to cover up your scars. You're perfect, darling, just the way you are. So before you think to rip yourself apart, open up my heart and you'll find love, 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 love. My heart and you'll find love. It will never grow old, even when we grow up. It's up to us to stop and smell each rose. They're the colors that we show, it's the feeling that we trust, and it's the brush that we both carry. You don't ever have to look too far. You don't have to cover up your scars. Perfect, darling, just the way you are. So before you think to rip yourself apart, open up my heart and you'll find love, 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 love.
All right, perfect. Now we're going to move on to the next step where you see these 4 birdhouses. 2 of them are packaged and then 2 of them are pre-made. The packaged ones I actually decided not to use because 2 houses looked better than 4. You can use those extra pieces to make the tombstones, or you can even use the jumbo craft sticks from Walmart, Michael's. And we're going to go ahead and paint these houses gray by mixing off-white and elephant chalk paint because I actually didn't have a lighter gray. So we're going to go ahead and paint the sides of the birdhouses as well as the bottoms right now, but you will see later that I painted the bottoms purple to match the bottom of the boxes better. It looked kind of weird that the blocks were purple and then the bottom of the houses were gray, so I just went ahead and painted those purple. And then in a little bit, you'll actually go ahead and see that I painted the roofs black on those birdhouses. Not quite sure what happened to that footage, but they are painted black. It doesn't matter what kind of paint you use, just anything you have on fine. So this is where you will see that the houses are painted black on top. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next step where we are building the tombstones. And this is where I was just using the extra pieces from that birdhouse. And I used 2 different shapes. I went with a rounder shape by using the paint for the round. And then I went with a straight on top with kind of slanted on the sides. And then those were all taken care of, so I went ahead and glued all 7 boxes together, and we went with the pattern of a big box, a little box, a big box, a little box, a big box, a little box, and a big box. So big, little, big, little, big, little. And I actually used 2 different kinds of glue. I did a wood glue on the outside and a hot glue on the inside, just so that way I could get it to stick faster. while I'm building the craft. And then once that wood glue dries, it'll hold it a lot better long term, so it's not going to fall apart with that wood glue. So those are going to go ahead and get glued together, and we're going to go ahead and start placing things, see how we want it to look. I did put those birdhouses backwards because I didn't want it to actually look like a birdhouse. And then right here I am actually showing you, I was showing you the skull heads that I found at Dollar Tree, and then I was showing you some little mushrooms that I painted white. I did have a little bit of footage of me painting those white, but you really couldn't see until I put it on the counter there, so I just kind of went with it. So here I'm gluing down the moss. You want to be really careful. I actually burnt my finger, that's why you see those pink things on my finger. Be very careful with hot glue. Yes, it does burn. So here we go, gluing down the moss. And then what we're going to go ahead and do next is we're going to add the tombstones that we made out of the extra pieces from that birdhouse. Now this moss I did actually get from Dollar Tree. It's called floral moss, and you can use anything. You don't even need to use moss if you don't want to. It's kind of just a preference. So we're going to go ahead and glue on those tombstones. I did a big and a little on one side, and then two littles on one side. And then I glued down the mushrooms that kind of reminded me of the statue's pedestal that they were sitting on. And then we'll go ahead and glue on the skull heads as well, which I also found all of this at the Dollar Tree, if I didn't happen to mention that. And then one of the skull heads I actually placed on the ground because in the Haunted Mansion, the skull head is actually laying on the ground. So I kind of wanted to go with that theme there. And then I'm just adding two more tombstones on the back there. So that is done. Alright, so that's all glued down to the way that I like it. Next, we're going to move on to the word haunted. I did cut this out with my Cricut. You can also use Dollar Tree stickers. They have many, many options of different fonts, sizes that you can use for this. You don't have to have a Cricut. I just happened to have one, so I used it to cut this out in gray vinyl. I actually wanted it in black, and it turned out that I didn't have enough black, so I cut it out in gray, and it actually turned out perfect. Now, I just showed you the two houses have some sayings on them. The first one says, "Grim Grinning Ghosts come out to socialize," and then another one says, if one door closes and another door opens, your house must be haunted. And then I put haunted down at the bottom. So I thought that was kind of a cool spin. And I was going to make those look like tombstones, and I figured if I added those sayings, it would kind of make it look like a tombstone, but it didn't have somebody's actual name. So here you can see I'm just placing those letters down to where I think they look good. And then next, you will see that I am not quite fully done with the project. I do go ahead and grab some black paint and distress the edges there with like a little paintbrush. It was kind of a stiffer one, so it didn't fully make the purple blocks black. It's just like a dry brush, so I just did the edges there along the houses and then along the blocks there. And then you'll be all done. Now, again, you can paint these any colors you want or any theme. I just happen to go with the Haunted Mansion because I do happen to like the Haunted Mansion. And then in a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and show some pictures and a video of a close-up of this project.
It's as simple as it seems, the twinkle in your eyes, the way that time slows down when you kiss me. As we fall asleep in a bed of butterflies, just close your eyes and then you'll see it. You don't ever have to look too far. You don't have to cover up your scars. You're perfect, darling, just the way you are. So before you think to rip yourself apart, open up my heart and you'll find love, love, love. we grow up, it's up to us to stop and smell each rose. They're the colors that we show, it's the feeling that we trust, and it's
Wasn't that so fun? All right, so next we're going to go ahead and build a Minnie Mouse Witch theme hat. What I did was I actually picked up this witch's hat form at Dollar Tree, and I added some white mesh first. So I just went ahead and wrapped that around the form here. Just kind of twisting and turning just to get it to fit all the way around. And you can use any colors you want, or you can use any kind of material you want. You don't even have to use mesh ribbon. You could use tulle, you could use actual fabric, you could use ribbon. This is what I just happened to have on hand. So I went ahead and wrapped that around, and then to get it to stay, I went ahead and pushed a pipe cleaner through the holes of that mesh ribbon and then just kind of attached it. And then we went ahead and cut those off, and I adjusted it just a little bit so it would stay on there. And at the very top, I went ahead and added another pipe cleaner so it would stay on there. Next, we're going to go ahead and add this purple tulle and just wrap it around just so that way it kind of had a purple tint to it, but it wasn't fully purple. So I went ahead and went around from top to bottom, and then when I got to the bottom, I went ahead and went right back up, just trying to make it so that way it was fully covered so you couldn't see the white near as much. And then I just went back down one more time, kind of turning it and twisting it as I went down so it would stay. And then there at the end, I went ahead and just cut it off and tied it to the frame. And then I just kind of pulled it just so that way it was kind of all on there. And then next, what you're going to go ahead and see is me cutting the tulle for the bottom. I just used my mat and cut it. I used my mat and cut it from one end to the other. It was about 24, so I would say maybe 24 inches. Don't quote me on that though. So I went ahead and cut two regular purples that were just plain of the spools, and then the second one I used was actually had some glitter on it. So I went ahead and cut all of these down to size so that way I had enough to go ahead and make the bottom part of the hat. So we're just going to go ahead and get those cut. And then next, we're going to go ahead and move on into getting these added. So what I did was I folded them in half, took the half that I folded and pulled it under, and then looped through that loop and pulled the edges so that way it was on there, but it wasn't going to fall off. So I did that to all of the pieces. Just taking up there, I took about 2 pieces, folded them in half, made a loop, and then put the loop underneath the wire and pulled the I can't think of what that's called, the mesh, it's not even mesh ribbon, it's tulle. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. So yes, we went ahead and made a loop and then pulled the tulle through. And then we're just going to go ahead and do this to the entire bottom of this hat. So I'm going to go ahead and let the music take over, and when we're done, I will go through the next steps. perfect. Moving on to the next step, we're going to go ahead and paint these foam board circles black and then attaching them to the wreath form just by using 2 pipe cleaners in black so that way you can't tell that they're on there. Just pulling them through that ribbon because it does have holes through it. So they will stay, and then flipping it over and adding a door hanger just by using a white pipe cleaner and twisting it through the ribbon again. Then I'm going to flip it over and add some hot glue just to make sure that those ears are fully secure. And then what's Minnie without her bow? Just making a small loop and then 4 big loops to make that bow on there. I just used a black pipe cleaner to twist it all together, fluffing it up, and now attaching it to my wreath. Again, just going through that mesh ribbon and twisting that a couple times, fluffing that, and there is that look. Now, I wasn't fully happy with it, so I thought, let's go ahead and add some buffalo check ribbon to the bottom of this wreath. First, I started out with 1 ribbon, and then I added a second smaller one. And still looking at that ribbon, I wasn't fully done yet. So I did find these spider lights at the Dollar Tree, wrapped them around, used a little bit of hot glue, and we have got ourselves a pretty cool mini wreath. I'm going to go ahead and show you what that final product does look like.